Welcome, curious minds, to the deep dive. Today we're diving into a question that seems simple, but, well, its answer unravels across millennia of human ingenuity and changing aspirations. What truly transforms a mere structure of walls and a roof into that profound, often elusive thing we call a home? It's far more than just a physical space, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely.
It's an intricate weave, like design, materials, human ambition, and deeply embedded societal values.
It absolutely is. In this deep dive, we're going to peel back the layers of our built environment. Our journey today is inspired, by the kind of insights you'd find in celebrated works that really illuminate the evolution of domestic spaces.
Right.
But our exploration will be broader still, a rich dive into the very foundations of how any human dwelling, from ancient temples and grand palaces to our most personal sanctuaries, comes to be.
Okay.
We'll unearth insights from architectural history, delve into the nuts and bolts of construction, examine the very materials that define our comfort, and explore the larger societal forces that have shaped the spaces we inhabit across time. So, like a shortcut.
Exactly. Think of this as your shortcut to understanding that complex, ongoing conversation that defines home.
I love that, a shortcut to understanding home. And what you'll discover today is, well, it's a sweeping narrative. We're going to traverse millennia, from ancient architectural marvels to some of the most cutting-edge building technologies.
It's quite a journey.
Yeah. You'll gain a richer understanding of how concepts we now often take for granted, like privacy, intimacy, efficiency, how they've been physically manifested and remanifested over time. We'll see how every design choice, every structural detail, and every project management decision contributes to the living story of our domestic lives. So let's get started. So where do we begin to understand this grand idea of home? Perhaps by looking at the very first structures that shaped our world.
Sounds like a good starting point.
Our first major section is the enduring legacy of architecture, from temples to thresholds. It's incredible how the earliest blueprints really set the stage for how we shape both our communal and private spaces. It really is, and what's fascinating is how much our homes, even today, are influenced by these ancient ideas. When we look at early forms of dwelling and community, the architecture wasn't just about shelter.
Yeah.
It was a physical manifestation of societal structure and power. Take ancient Ur, for example.
Okay,
A sprawling city where massive precinct walls enclosed distinct residential buildings. You had the Gigparku, priestly residence signaling spiritual authority.
Right.
And a royal palace, a separate square matting, clearly marking secular power. It shows a physical separation of religious and governmental domains.
That balance of power in Ur is fascinating. Did that always hold true, or did the architectural signals of power ever shift dramatically in other ancient cities?
That's a great question, because if we fast forward a bit to Mari, around 1750 BC, you see a dramatic reversal.
Oh, how so?
There, the palace was absolutely enormous. We're talking some 260 rooms and courts.
Wow.
Completely overshadowing the ziggurat, which was the temple complex. This wasn't just a bigger building. It was a clear architectural signal of a profound shift in societal focus.
Emphasizing royalty.
Exactly, emphasizing the grandeur and central importance of royal living over religious institutions. It's a literal architectural power shift.
So architecture isn't just about housing, it's about making statements. Really big ones sometimes. And these statements weren't just for the living, were they? Even beliefs about the afterlives were built into spaces.
Precisely. We see this powerfully in Mycenaean burial practices. Their shaft graves often featured false doors.
False doors.
Yeah, and bodies were swathed, suggesting mummification, plus generous use of gold. The real insight here is that these practices suggest a direct familiarity with Egyptian funerary ritual.
Ah, the Egyptian connection.
Right. So even the spaces for the deceased became literal reflections of cultural exchange and deeply held beliefs about the afterlife, quite literally built into the very earth.
Moving from these ancient practices, let's look at the classical foundations, where logic, aesthetics, and adaptability truly started to take shape in how we built.
Yes, the Greeks and Romans.
The Greeks, for instance, they're famous for composing their three architectural orders: Doric, Ionic, and Corinthian. What was the big idea there?
Well, the big idea was standardization and proportion. Each order had specific proportions and ornamentation that communicated different aesthetics, different feelings.
Like moods.
Sort of. The Doric and Ionic were the preferred choices for their great temples, embodying a sense of, robust dignity or maybe refined grace.
Okay.
The Corinthian, while the richest and most elegant, was often reserved for smaller, more decorative structures. But what's particularly insightful from a functional aesthetics perspective is the Ionic order's slenderness. Its columns were notably tall and thin.
Why was that important?
Well, this was considered a happier solution for achieving sufficient interior height, especially in spaces like stoas, those long colonnaded halls. A two-story column system would have interrupted the view. So it shows an early, sophisticated understanding of how design impacts the human experience of a space.
So even back then, they were thinking about how design impacted the human experience, like really thinking about it.
Yeah.
But the Romans took a different approach, didn't they?
They did.
They borrowed heavily from these Greek orders, but their pragmatism led to significant modifications.
What's fascinating here is the Roman departure from the Greek ideal of structural purity. They frequently superimposed Greek orders and predominantly employed the arch and vault in their public buildings.
Which the Greeks didn't use as much.
Not in the same way, especially for large spans. The Romans found arches and vaults structurally more efficient. Vitruvius, the ancient Roman architect, even had precise names for how columns should be spaced, what he called intercolumniation, to achieve perfect balance and proportion.
Okay.
But when it came to their own construction, the Romans often treated Greek composition merely as a frame serving to ornament the necessary part of his construction.
Ornament, like decoration.
Exactly. This is a crucial insight. They fundamentally separated structural necessity from decorative embellishment, seeing decoration as a separate layer, maybe a luxury, rather than an inherent part of the structure itself, unlike the Greeks.
That's an interesting distinction structure first, then adornment. And we see their pragmatism and scale, too, like the vast amphitheater at Pola.
Absolutely. At Pola, you'd find ranges of seats and stairs built of wood, while only the exterior elliptical wall was stone.
Wood, really?
Yeah. This showcased economical and ready methods for constructing essential public structures that could be quickly adapted, especially in well-wooded districts. It perfectly illustrates how Romans remained faithful to their grand arrangements, but were highly adaptable with materials and resources, often prioritizing function and speed over, let's say, Greek-level perfection of every detail.
Makes sense. Practicality rules.
Pretty much.
And it wasn't just about the buildings themselves. Vitruvius also underscored something incredibly fundamental to any settlement: the critical importance of water.
Oh, absolutely essential.
He outlined specific tests for good springs, like observing the physique of local inhabitants or checking if the water leaves spots on bronze.
This highlights a foundational insight. Even in grand architectural projects, the most basic human needs were inextricably linked to the design and placement of any dwelling or community.
You need good water.
Exactly. A spring that passed these tests was considered excellent and vital for the health of mankind. It's a powerful reminder that home, even broadly conceived, starts with the very essentials of life.
Moving beyond the classical era, we see a fascinating reshaping of domestic ideas emerge during the medieval and Renaissance periods. Early medieval builders, for instance, largely abandoned Roman ground plans,
Right, they went simpler.
opting for simpler, unvaulted, basilica-like buildings. But that quickly presented a problem, didn't it?
Yes, a very practical problem. Timber roofs were highly susceptible to burning or rapid decay, especially in damp, variable climates.
Not ideal.
Not at all. So there was a pragmatic shift towards vaulting, essentially building curved stone ceilings. This led to an increase in the thickness of longitudinal walls to resist the outward thrust of these heavy vaults.
So thicker walls for stronger ceilings.
Precisely. Eventually, this evolved into more sophisticated groined vaulting, where two barrel vaults intersect, and the development of external piers and buttresses.
Ah, the flying buttresses.
Well, buttresses and piers, yeah. Those projecting supports you see on cathedrals. This allowed them to support massive structures without encumbering the interior space with thick internal walls. It was a clear demonstration of architectural innovation driven by practical needs in a changing climate.
And that drive for structural innovation truly blossomed with the French secular school in the 12th century, didn't it? They really departed from Roman and Byzantine traditions.
They did, establishing principles that were quite revolutionary and profoundly influenced the future of building, even our homes. They believed in equilibrium in the constructive system.
Equilibrium.
Yeah, the idea that every active force should be precisely met by an opposing active resistance, creating stability. They insisted that outward form should result solely from the structure and its functional requirements, rejecting superficial decoration.
Form follows function, basically.
Kind of an early version, yes. Their ornamentation was derived from local flora, and their statuary became distinctly naturalistic. Crucially, they emphasized honesty in materials. Stone should appear as stone, iron as iron, wood as wood, reflecting its true function and nature.
I like that. Honesty in materials.
We see this in details like column bases from St. Antonin and Dales, which often featured claws at projecting angles, a logical structural precaution.
This sounds like a period where craftsmanship and specialized knowledge were highly valued, almost like a secret society of builders.
Absolutely. The construction of grand cathedrals, for example, involved a clear hierarchy of skills and a deep commitment to craftsmanship.
You couldn't just walk up and start building.
No. Lay brothers might learn rudimentary skills like mixing mortar and basic masonry, but stone cutting, that required a much longer and more specialized apprenticeship, often a lifetime of learning.
Wow.
These skilled workers were so vital that they were often granted exemptions from some holy offices, allowing them to labor uninterruptedly from morning to night. It highlights the immense investment in human capital and specialized knowledge that went into building the domestic and communal spaces of the era, a true human touch at the foundation.
So we've moved from sheer structural necessity to a more refined, principle-driven approach. This brings us perfectly to Andrea Palladio in the Renaissance, born in 1508. His vision was truly about harmonizing function and form, profoundly influencing the idea of a country home.
Palladio's story is remarkable because he started as a stonemason and sculptor, learning from the ground up.
Hands-on experience.
Definitely. It was his generous patron, Count Giangiorgio Trissino, who took him to Rome, where he immersed himself in the study of ancient buildings. His designs, particularly his villas like Villa Imo and Villa Godi, represented a groundbreaking concept in Renaissance architecture.
What was so groundbreaking?
The real insight here is how they beautifully united the farmers and the gentleman's worlds, blending practical agriculture with refined living.
Bridging the gap.
Exactly. This was a new way of thinking about the country home, not just as a workplace or a grand estate, but as a harmonious fusion of both, embodying a new ideal of domestic comfort and sophistication.
And he was incredibly adaptable in his construction methods, too, which seems rather modern for the era, especially given the economic climate.
He was a master of adaptive construction. Many of Palladio's villas were built in symmetrical units, expanding outward from a central spine.
Building in stages?
Pretty much. This process was incredibly well suited to the uncertain economy of the time, allowing his patrons to add loggias and towers as their funds allowed. It's a testament to a flexible approach, where grand designs could be realized incrementally, adapting to financial realities without sacrificing the overall vision.
Smart. A lesson in long-term planning, even with short-term constraints.
Exactly.
He truly embodied a philosophical approach to architecture. What were some of the core Palladian principles that made his work so impactful and enduring?
His architecture emphasized three key principles. First, hierarchy, a systematic buildup from dependent parts to a focal core, so the different sections of a building served a central idea.
Okay, a hierarchy.
Second, proportionality, integrating part to part and part to whole in 3 dimensions, creating a sense of balance and harmony.
Balance, got it.
And third, the coordination of exterior and interior design, where the internal organization was reflected on the facades, maintaining consistency.
Inside matches outside.
Essentially, yes. While not strictly classical in the sense of merely copying ancient Greece and Rome, Palladio drew crucial lessons from Roman, Byzantine, and even Gothic architecture to achieve structural improvements and specific effects of shape, light, and space.
So he mixed and matched influences.
He learned from all of them. For instance, palaces like Palazzo Chiricati, built on open piazzas, utilized tripartite facades that could only be appreciated from a distance. This shows how context, whether a narrow city street or an open square, profoundly influenced design choices and the way a home was experienced.
He sounds like a true innovator, but also quite pragmatic, especially regarding materials, something that directly impacts how accessible his designs were.
He certainly was. Palladio frequently used less expensive materials like brick faced with stucco rather than costly stone to realize his designs.
Stucco instead of stone.
Often, yes. While this pragmatic choice sometimes led to poorer preservation of his buildings over time, it made his architectural vision accessible to a wider range of patrons and allowed for the construction of many more buildings, spreading his influential style.
Made it more democratic in a way.
You could say that.
Yeah.
It's another example of how he balanced aesthetic ambition with practical realities, fundamentally shaping the domestic landscape for centuries to come.
Okay, so we've journeyed through the architectural philosophies, the big ideas. But it's one thing to have grand ideas, it's another entirely to bring them to life.
Absolutely. Execution is everything.
And that, of course, relies on the very fabric of our homes.
Mhm.
The materials, the components, and the human hands that shape them. Every building starts with elemental choices, evolving from earth to modern compounds.
That's right. Stone and masonry, for instance, have always been nature's enduring building blocks. Historically, builders made the most of local resources, showing a deep connection to their environment.
Using what was nearby.
Exactly. In Somerset, England, you'd find Dolting stone, known for its distinctive granular structure, alongside blue lias, often used for flooring or foundations. For more prominent interior features like chimney pieces, steps, plinths, and paving stones, all Walton marble was a common choice.
So different stones for different jobs.
Precisely, showcasing how specific materials were selected for their aesthetic appeal and functional qualities.
And masonry construction today, even with all our advancements, still relies on intricate details and planning, far beyond just stacking bricks, right?
Oh, absolutely. The insight here is that modern masonry is a precisely engineered system. For example, what we call composite masonry often involves a facing layer of clay brick and a backup layer of concrete block.
Two layers.
Often, yes. These layers are carefully connected with mortar, which fills the collar joints, the space between them, and reinforced with metal ties for structural integrity. Architectural drawings for these are incredibly detailed.
I bet.
Using symbolic depictions, dotted lines for hidden geometry, and varying line weights to convey complex information, right down to the flashing and weep holes for moisture management. It's a testament to the hidden complexity and even a seemingly simple brick wall.
Speaking of masonry, chimneys are such a quintessential feature of homes, and their construction has evolved quite a bit. They're a crucial technological innovation that utterly transformed domestic life, weren't they?
They are essential, both functionally and decoratively, and yes, they were a huge game changer for interior comfort, allowed for much warmer, less smoky homes.
Finally.
Exactly. Masonry chimneys, while not always requiring a shaft in modern codes, do mandate fire blocking, essentially internal fire barriers in hidden wall or ceiling spaces at each floor level for safety.
Fire safety is key.
Always. Historically, we see wonderful examples like Tudor chimney stacks, which demonstrate how their design evolved to be both decorative and highly functional, often becoming prominent architectural features. Even way back, ancient smelting furnaces had complex systems for catching metallic substances that rose with fumes, employing vaulted chambers.
Early pollution control.
Sort of. Early forms of managing exhaust and byproducts, definitely a precursor to the domestic chimney.
Moving from stone to wood, it's incredible how versatile this material is, providing structure, aesthetics, and a canvas for the craftsman's art. Different wood species have different properties, don't they, making them suited for specific tasks.
They absolutely do. Take common framing woods like spruce pine fir and hem fir, for instance. They possess different compressive strengths, directly impacting their structural suitability for carrying loads.
So you need the right strengths for the job.
Definitely. Plywood, a material that's everywhere in homes today, also comes in various veneer grades. You've got A for high-quality appearance in, say, cabinetry, down to CDX for sheathing, where exterior glue makes it weather-resistant for construction.
So A is pretty, CDX is tough.
That's a good way to put it. The insight is that every piece of wood is chosen and graded for its specific job, from the bones of the house to the finishing touches.
So specific applications drive the choice of wood and its preparation. And the construction techniques, especially traditional ones, reveal an incredible level of skill and artistry.
Absolutely. Post-beam connections, for example, often utilize metal tie straps or gussets for stability, holding those heavy timbers together. Window frames, traditionally made of wood, are valued for their thermal insulating properties and are typically crafted from kiln-dried, clear, straight-grain wood.
So it's high quality.
It is. To minimize maintenance today, they're often factory-treated and clad with vinyl or acrylic-coated aluminum. But it's in the advanced woodworking craft that you see true mastery, embodying the human touch.
Like that blind wedging thing.
Exactly. The anecdote of blind wedging for newel posts on staircases is a fantastic example. It involves driving a round peg into a post with a wedge without any fasteners or glue, creating a strong, invisible joint.
No glue, no screws. Wow.
Pure skill. Similarly, the ability to steam and bend 1-inch air-dried stock to a 2-inch radius, often with a restraining strap for curved components, really highlights the transformative power and artistry of traditional woodworking techniques. These are skills passed down through generations.
From the ancient and traditional, let's jump to concrete and gypsum, which represent incredible modern versatility in construction.
Sure.
Portland cement, the key ingredient in concrete, comes in many types, each designed for a specific purpose.
It's true. The real insight here about Portland cement isn't just its strength, but its incredible adaptability and specialized versatility. There are 8 types. Yeah, each with specialized applications. Type I is a normal cement for most construction, but then you have types like Type 3, which is high early strength, very useful in cold weather or for accelerating construction schedules.
Faster building in winter.
Right. Or Type 4, designed for low heat of hydration, essential for massive structures like dams to prevent damaging temperature buildup during curing. And air entraining cements, which create microscopic air bubbles, are crucial for enhancing concrete durability, especially against freeze-thaw cycles.
So lots of science in that bag of cement.
It's a surprising amount. Joseph Aspin actually produced the first hydraulic Portland cement way back in 1824, building on earlier experiments. Its evolution transformed the scale and resilience of structures, from grand public works to the very foundations of our homes.
And gypsum board, or drywall, has become an absolute staple for interiors, revolutionizing how quickly and efficiently we can finish internal walls.
It's incredibly widely used for interior walls and ceilings due to its good fire resistance, dimensional stability, and economical installation.
Cheaper and faster than plaster.
Generally, yes. It's also often called drywall because little to no water is used in its application, speeding up construction significantly compared to traditional plaster.
Yeah.
But even with this modern material, you still need to consider important details like control joints in plaster ceilings, for instance.
Control trades.
Yeah, deliberate breaks, usually every 30 feet or so, to manage shrinkage, temperature fluctuations, or structural stresses. Basically, they prevent cracking in large areas. It's about designing for the material's inherent properties, even modern ones.
Now let's explore some of the essential components that truly shape interior function, starting with doors and windows. They're not just openings. They're guardians of entry, light, and crucially privacy and efficiency, which are central to the idea of a modern home.
That's a great way to put it. Doors, for example, have a surprising variety of mechanics that influence how we interact with space. You have invisible hinges that are concealed when closed, or floor hinges that allow doors to swing in either direction, sometimes even with a closer mechanism. The specific thickness and width of a door dictate the corresponding hinge sizes, and building codes mandate that exit doors must swing in the direction of exit travel and often be equipped with panic bars for safety.
Details matter.
These details might seem small, but they define how we move through and secure our homes.
And windows, beyond just providing light, have so many features designed to manage the elements, affecting both comfort and energy use.
Oh, definitely. Modern wood windows, for instance, incorporate clever features like snap-in glazing beads to hold the glass and specialized drips for horizontal members at ventilating sashes to effectively manage water runoff.
Take the brain out.
Exactly. Crucially, weather stripping is set into integral grooves in the frame and sash sections to enhance thermal performance and prevent air infiltration, keeping our homes warm in winter and cool in summer.
Energy efficiency.
Huge factor. Even the simple glazed window or the sash window fundamentally altered how light and ventilation were managed, shaping the domestic interior's comfort and privacy over centuries. It's an often overlooked technological leap.
Here's where it gets really interesting for me. Staircases. They seem so straightforward, but apparently they embody a small sacred trust. What does that mean?
It means they are far more critical and precise than most people realize. There's a collective, successively refined wisdom of the tribe of carpenters that dictates an ergonomic principle.
Wisdom of the carpenters. I like it.
It's true. The width of a tread, the part you step on, and the height of one riser, the vertical part, should ideally sum to between 17 and 18 inches.
17 to 18 inches. Why?
It's optimized for human locomotion, ensuring comfort and safety. But the most basic and crucial rule is consistency. Every tread and riser must be identical within a 32nd of an inch.
A 32nd, that tiny.
That tiny. Even minor variations, as little as a quarter inch, can cause people to trip because our legs and feet instinctively anticipate the next step based on the first one. It's a fascinating example of how centuries of human experience are distilled into a precise design rule.
That's incredible precision. So, A 32nd of an inch can literally trip people up. I'm going to be looking at every staircase differently now.
You probably will.
It sounds like stair building requires almost a Zen-like focus. What other seemingly small details have such massive importance?
Well, a common builder's challenge, and a frequent mistake, is failing to account for the thickness of an uninstalled finish floor in the calculations.
Forgetting the carpet or tile.
Exactly. This results in a bottom riser that's shorter than all the others, a flaw that will never stop tripping people. It highlights the immense precision and foresight required of stair-making carpenters who are, in a sense, like school crossing guards or trainers of seeing eye dogs in their responsibility for safety and comfort within the home.
Wow. A big responsibility.
It's a literal manifestation of human care built into the structure.
Beyond the immediate components, proper ventilation and airflow are critical for a healthy, efficient home environment.
They are. Take freeze block vents, for example. These are vents often drilled or notched into the blocks that sit below the roofline and screened to keep insects out.
Okay.
They're designed to allow airflow to rafter spaces and connect with the airspace below the roof sheathing. What's often overlooked, and is a critical insight for home efficiency, is that building codes stipulate formulas for calculating the collective area of these vents.
Formulas for vents.
Yes, because they are frequently too small. This is a critical detail for proper attic ventilation, which in turn impacts energy efficiency, prevents moisture buildup, and contributes to the longevity of the home. Little vents, big impact.
We've talked about the grand designs and the individual components, the materials, but none of it comes to life without meticulous organization.
True. It's a massive coordination effort.
Our next section is about orchestrating creation, the science of building management. It's about how project management brings designs to life, from the smallest home renovation to the largest skyscraper.
That's exactly right. At its core, project management is the application of knowledge, skills, tools, and techniques to project activities to meet requirements.
Getting the job done.
Basically, yes. Guiding the project to deliver intended outcomes using various approaches, whether predictive, hybrid, or adaptive. The project manager is the person assigned to lead the project team, facilitating their work, managing processes, and ensuring objectives are met.
The conductor of the orchestra.
A good analogy. Fundamentally, a requirement is simply a condition or capability necessary to satisfy a business need, and quality is the degree to which a set of inherent characteristics fulfills these requirements. It's about ensuring everyone knows what needs to be built and how well it needs to perform.
So it's about defining what needs to be built and ensuring it meets expectations from the very beginning. How do they break down such massive undertakings? Like, how do you eat an elephant?
One bite at a time. They structure the work using something called a work breakdown structure, or WBS.
WBS, okay.
Think of it as a hierarchical decomposition of the total scope of work, breaking down project objectives into smaller, more manageable parts. This allows for detailed planning, and cost codes can even be developed for each WBS element for effective cost control.
Tracking the money.
Essential. Alongside this, there's an activity list that documents all schedule activities with descriptions and identifiers. And crucially, a definition of done, or DOD.
Definition of done.
Yeah, it's a checklist of criteria a deliverable must meet to be considered ready for customer use. These tools provide clarity and a roadmap for the entire project, ensuring everyone is on the same page.
It sounds incredibly detailed, almost bureaucratic, but necessary.
Absolutely necessary for complex projects. And of course, time and cost are always central to any building project, often the biggest concerns for homeowners. They are, and managing them is a science in itself. The project schedule is an output showing all linked activities, planned dates, durations, milestones, and resources.
The timeline.
Right. Baselines, most commonly for cost and schedule, are established to track actual performance against what was planned. Even if work isn't on the critical path, late start and finish dates signal that the project isn't performing to plan.
Keeping things on track.
Exactly. To manage this efficiently, scheduling software like Microsoft Project uses the critical path method, or CPM. This technique shows how activities are linked, calculates critical paths, the longest sequence of tasks that determines the project duration, and determines float values, which is the amount of time an activity can be delayed without delaying the project.
So it tells you where you have wiggle room.
Precisely. This significantly improves scheduling and helps prevent delays.
So it's not just about setting a schedule, but constantly monitoring and adjusting it. And what about the financial side of things? How do they keep a lid on costs for a home build or a major renovation?
Cost monitoring is equally rigorous. Actual cost, or AC, is simply the realized cost for work performed. Cost estimates are prepared at various stages: schematic, preliminary, in progress, and final design, with design contingency reflecting the expected accuracy of these estimates.
Building in some buffer.
You have to. Value analysis or value engineering studies are used to optimize project designs by considering capital, operating, and maintenance costs, ensuring you get the most bang for your buck, not just initially, but over the lifetime of the home.
Thinking long term.
Yes, it's a continuous process to ensure the project stays within budget and delivers maximum value. We also look at interference in complex systems, which refers to delays caused by time imbalances between interacting unit activities rather than just random variations.
Like if one crew is waiting on another.
Exactly. If the concrete isn't drying fast enough for the next phase, that's interference, and it needs to be managed.
That brings us to modern building approaches and tools, which have truly revolutionized how we plan and construct. Building information modeling, or BIM, sounds like the digital blueprint for the future.
It absolutely is, and it's transformative for how homes and larger structures are conceived and built. BIM involves defining a building as a composed set of parametric objects.
Parametric objects, what are those?
These aren't just lines on a drawing. They're intelligent 3D objects that know what they are: a wall, a window, a beam, and they contain data. They can be refined to minimize labor, achieve specific visual appearances, or minimize material types and sizes.
Smart objects.
Very smart. BIM design applications embed strong formatting rules for drawing extraction. Systems like Graphisoft, ArchiCAD, BIM Server, for instance, manage projects at the object level, not just files. This allows for selective work, access control, version and change management, and delta updates, which only transfer modified objects.
So faster updates.
Significantly reducing file transfer sizes and update times. The insight here is that BIM creates a living, evolving digital twin of the building.
That's a huge step up from traditional 2D drawings.
Yeah,
Like night and day.
pretty much.
And it must make coordination much easier.
Yeah.
Especially with complex systems like mechanical, electrical, and plumbing, the MEP systems.
It makes a massive difference, dramatically reducing errors. MEP designers routinely perform clash detection against structural models, using specialized tools like MagicCAD and Tekla.
Finding where pipes hit beams before it happens.
Exactly that. Navisworks and Celebri are then used for visual inspections and model checking, reporting errors with screen images for review. Void objects can even be defined in MEP models and passed to structural models to automatically create openings for pipes or ducts.
That saves a lot of headaches on site.
It does. This level of digital coordination vastly reduces errors that used to cost approximately 1% of construction costs in traditional 2D practices.
1% is huge.
It adds up.
That sounds incredibly efficient. But does this digital blueprint also help with time management? Essentially giving you a crystal ball for the construction schedule?
Yes, BIM models can be integrated with construction schedules, leading to what's known as 4D CAD, adding the fourth dimension of time.
4D. Cool.
This allows for visualization of deviations from planned sequences and durations, making it much easier to spot potential problems and prevent delays. However, it's worth noting that updating these complex models can be time-consuming and costly.
Ah, the catch.
Sometimes. In some cases, like during a bridge pier reconstruction where schedule uncertainty was high, the benefit of updating the 4D model was deemed not worth the cost.
Practical limits.
Right. But beyond construction, BIM models, once finalized as-built models, can be transitioned to owners for facility management, aiding in space planning, occupant assignment, and equipment inventory, provided there's close collaboration to ensure the information is in a useful format. So it's not just for building, but for living in and managing the home long term.
So BIM offers incredible advantages, but also has its practical considerations. What about more adaptive approaches to building, especially when projects are less predictable, like a major renovation where you uncover surprise?
That's where adaptive approaches are crucial, particularly when project requirements are highly uncertain and subject to change throughout the project lifecycle. This is where systems like the Last Planner system, or LPS, come into play.
Last planner system. Okay.
LPS aims to enhance workflow reliability, measured by percent plan complete, or PPC. How much of the planned work actually got done?
Makes sense.
It does this by having frontline supervisors create coordinated Wentley work plans, focusing only on tasks that are well-defined, sound, sequenced, and appropriately sized for the performers, making sure the work is actually ready to go.
So it's about making sure the work is ready to be done efficiently, rather than just hoping it gets done, like prepping ingredients before cooking.
Exactly. LPS has evolved to include look-ahead planning, ensuring that what should be done can be done when needed, and collaborative pull planning, which is a reverse phase scheduling technique where you work backwards from milestones.
Pull planning.
Yeah. These processes improve project cost and schedule performance by recognizing that project progress depends on tasks being ready in the right sequence and at the right rate. It fundamentally shifts the focus from simply reporting progress to actively making work flow reliably. It's all about creating predictability in an often unpredictable environment.
Finally, let's talk about ensuring quality, safety, and sustainability in our built environment. Building codes and regulatory frameworks are the backbone of this, aren't they? Especially when it comes to the safety of our homes.
They are the absolute foundation, our shared agreement on minimum safety and quality. The International Building Code, or IBC, and other I codes are the basic model codes used in virtually every U.S. state.
The rule book.
Essentially. However, it's crucial to understand that states and localities frequently adopt specific amendments, so knowing the exact edition of the code and all local modifications is critical for permitting and compliance.
So the rules can vary slightly town to town.
They can. This means a code in one town might be slightly different from its neighbor. Gotta check local rules.
And safety, especially fire safety, is paramount, something we often take for granted until it's too late.
Absolutely. Building elements like the primary structural frame and bearing walls have required fire resistance ratings, and crucially, draft stopping.
Draft stopping.
Yeah. Essentially, internal fire barriers in hidden wall or ceiling spaces is mandated in concealed spaces, such as floor ceiling cavities and attics, to restrict air movement and slow the spread of fire in combustible construction.
Slowing down the fire.
Exactly. Exit corridors and stairways must be enclosed by fire-resistive construction with self-closing fire doors that swing in the direction of exit travel. Codes also specify minimum numbers of egress doors based on occupant load. For example, a Group B occupancy, like an office, with more than 49 occupants requires at least 2 means of egress.
2 ways out.
Always. These are all non-negotiable for human safety within any structure.
Beyond codes, construction site safety requires constant vigilance and a specific management approach. How do construction managers ensure workers are safe while building our homes?
It certainly does, and it's a huge responsibility. Construction managers, or CMs, must thoroughly understand the owner's commitment to job site safety. A prudent CM often negotiates a separate fee for providing safety management services.
Get paid specifically for safety.
Yes, ensuring clarity in scope and adequate liability protection. Crucially, CM staff must be empowered to suspend work immediately in imminent danger situations on behalf of the owner.
Stop the job if it's dangerous.
Without hesitation. Rasmussen's safety model challenges traditional safety programs that focus solely on keeping workers in a safe zone.
How so?
It recognizes that individual and organizational factors often push people into risky circumstances. Instead, it advocates for developing coping behavior at the edge of control, emphasizing that helping workers apply judgment is more effective than rigid rule following.
Judgment over rules.
To an extent. It's about empowering workers with the judgment to navigate risk, rather than simply trying to eliminate it through rigid rules, which is a powerful shift in thinking, giving them tools to cope, not just rules to follow blindly.
And of course, in our modern era, green building and sustainable practices are increasingly vital for building homes that are not just safe, but also responsible.
They've become central to the conversation about construction. The AD Green Building Rating System, developed by the U.S. Green Building Council, promotes measurable criteria for environmentally sustainable construction, and it's continually refined.
OGI points.
Right. These standards have expanded significantly from originally focusing on new office buildings to now including hotels, factories, homes, existing buildings, and even community and urban design like LEED Indy for neighborhoods.
So it's not just for big office towers anymore.
Not at all. The insight here is that building green is no longer a niche, but a comprehensive approach to creating a more sustainable built environment.
So what are some of the key features that make a building green, and how do they directly impact the home?
Well, green buildings aim to minimize direct site impact, utilize low-energy schemes through passive heating, cooling, lighting, and ventilation.
Using nature.
Exactly. Optimize building orientation and massing, and select materials with low environmental impact that minimize resource consumption. The reuse of existing structures and designing for durability and adaptability are also crucial.
Building things to last.
And be adaptable. For example, water and energy efficiency efforts have seen remarkable results. Toilets account for almost half of a typical building's water consumption.
Half.
Almost half. Replacing older toilets with 1.6-gallon per flush models in New York City apartment buildings saved 80 million gallons per day.
Wow, just from toilets.
Huge impact. Daylighting systems, often integrated with occupancy sensors, maximize natural light while controlling glare through internal and external shading devices. These aren't just technical details, they're about creating a healthier, more cost-effective, and environmentally responsible home.
That's a significant impact from what seems like small changes. And some buildings are aiming for even more ambitious goals, like net zero energy.
Indeed. The Pearl River Tower in Guangzhou, China, a super tall skyscraper, was designed to be net zero energy, meaning it would generate as much energy annually as it consumes.
Did it work?
Well, while it didn't quite achieve full net zero, it did earn a LEED Platinum rating and consumes 40% less energy than standard towers. Features like vertical axis wind turbines and photovoltaic panels integrated into the roof and shading louvers showcase the incredible innovation in sustainable building design today.
Pushing the limits.
Absolutely. The insight is that we're pushing the boundaries of what's possible, not just for skyscrapers, but for the homes of tomorrow.
We've explored the blueprints, the materials, the management, delving into the science of building. Now, let's go beyond the blueprint, how buildings shape us and our communities, starting with the most fundamental element. The human touch, the human element in construction and design.
The people involved.
Yeah. Tracy Kidder's observations on house building really highlight the tension between clients and builders, don't they? It's often a complex dance.
It's absolutely a complex dance, and Kidder captures this perfectly. He describes the client often seeking a fixed contract price to avoid worrying about labor costs, wanting to relax and enjoy the process.
That's reasonable.
From their perspective, yes, yet this often creates a dynamic where the client can feel like the enemy to the builder, who is navigating their own financial pressures and yearning to simply enjoy building a nice house.
So conflicting priorities.
It's a fundamental disconnect that often strains the relationship, even when both parties ultimately want a successful outcome. The insight is that even in something as personal as building a home, human dynamics and expectations can create significant friction.
And the architect, too, plays a unique role, often seen by clients as less of a technical planner and more of, well, an artist who breathes life into the design.
That's right. A client might view their architect as an artist, making allowances for their persistent arguments over aesthetic details, even if it slows things down.
Letting the artist be an artist.
Exactly. This reflects the subjective value placed on design and the unique personality and architect imprints on a home. It's not just about technical plans, it's about translating vision into reality, which inherently involves a human element of negotiation, compromise, and appreciation for artistic expression.
This brings up an interesting distinction that's crucial in any complex field, especially building. The difference between simply having information and truly possessing knowledge.
It's a vital point. The example of a mechanic diagnosing car problems illustrates this perfectly. A diagnostic code might tell you system fuel too lean.
Just data.
Right, just data. But an experienced mechanic might look at the spark plugs and know whether it's a P0171 lean or P0172 rich problem, understanding the context that the raw data doesn't provide. That's the difference between information and knowledge, which is information filtered through judgment and experience.
Knowing what the data means.
Exactly. In building, deep understanding and experience are crucial to interpret data and avoid errors. Without that judgment, representations can become nonsensical, much like a schoolchild relying on a calculator without understanding the underlying principle. You need the wisdom behind the data.
And these human dynamics can lead to tricky managerial situations too, especially with specialized knowledge workers in large projects.
Absolutely. Supervisors of knowledge workers often find themselves in an ambivalent position. Their subordinates expect them to protect their expertise and knowledge area against managerial demands,
Protect the team.
while management expects them to integrate that knowledge with organizational objectives. As Peter Drucker points out, a supervisor can feel disavowed by both, becoming the enemy to their team for selling out to management and to management for being parochial.
Stuck in the middle.
Pretty much. This highlights the complex human dynamics inherent in managing large, intricate projects, where the human element of expertise and loyalty plays a significant role.
Moving from individual dynamics, let's zoom out to how buildings shape us and our communities at a larger scale. Urban transformation, for instance, has had a profound impact on the idea of home. Haussmann's radical transformation of Paris between 1853 and 1868 is a prime example.
Haussmann's Paris was a monumental undertaking, focusing on creating broad boulevards, squares, and gardens, essentially making the street dominant.
changing the whole feel of the city.
Completely. This reshaped urban living by emphasizing grand public spaces over older, denser private ones. The insight here is how a single, powerful vision can fundamentally alter how people move through and experience their city, profoundly influencing their perception of home within that urban fabric, shifting it from a quiet internal space to one more connected to public grandeur.
But not everyone agreed with these grand top-down planning approaches, did they? Jane Jacobs famously offered powerful critiques of modern city planning, arguing for a very different vision of urban home.
What's fascinating here is Jacobs's argument against the orthodox city planning of her time. She critiqued approaches that isolated residences from streets, segregated commerce, and relied on superblocks.
Things she saw as sterile.
Exactly. She contended that such methods created islanded communities that resisted change and lacked the exuberant variety essential for a lively city scene. For Jacobs, small, diverse elements, including varied commerce, were crucial for a thriving urban home.
The messy vitality.
Yes. Fostering a sense of community and spontaneous interaction that grand, uniform plans often stifled. Her work is a powerful reminder that home extends far beyond the four walls of a house into the vibrancy of the surrounding neighborhood.
This raises an important question. How much does one visionary individual impact these large-scale changes? Robert Moses in New York City comes to mind as someone who wielded immense power.
Moses was certainly a visionary and, well, a controversial figure. His ambitious projects, like the Circumferential Parkway around Brooklyn and Queens, aimed to provide easier access and new scenic views.
Building highways everywhere.
Pretty much. His methods were often described as bullyrag or a smear artist, yet he demonstrated how immense power and singular vision could reshape a city's infrastructure and, by extension, its domestic landscape. His ingenuity in financing projects, sometimes bending rules or finding creative ways to leverage funds from various agencies.
Getting things done, no matter what.
That was his reputation. It allowed for the realization of massive undertakings, fundamentally changing how New Yorkers lived and moved. The insight is how individual will can literally reshape the collective home.
But even with these grand visions, Jacobs also highlighted the importance of neighborhood power, noting that some communities are more resilient than others.
She did. Jacobs pointed out that while small, ethnically distinctive neighborhoods can function well internally, they are often helpless against external problems.
Like what?
They can be shortchanged on public improvements or face credit blacklisting by mortgage lenders without the collective power of larger integrated districts. Her insights reveal that the idea of home extends beyond the individual dwelling to the power dynamics and social fabric of the surrounding community.
The neighborhood needs clout.
For a home to truly thrive, the neighborhood must also thrive and have a voice.
Finally, let's talk about the hard realities. The economics and longevity of buildings. Stuart Brand observed a concerning trend, didn't he, regarding how we view our homes. It's almost like they've become something else entirely.
He noted a distinct trade-up mentality where houses become mere investments.
Flipping houses.
Or just thinking that way. This leads homeowners to make improvements not for their own enjoyment, but for imaginary future buyers. This transforms homes into commodities on the shelf, where homeowners associations often resist anything that might degrade value, inadvertently stifling diversity and adaptation within neighborhoods.
Keeping everything the same to protect value.
Exactly. The focus shifts from living in a home to investing in a property, which can have profound long-term consequences for our built environment, essentially detaching us from the deeper meaning of home.
And Jane Jacobs had a powerful distinction for the kind of money that flows into these buildings, influencing their very character and survival.
She contrasted cataclysmic money, which is focused on rapid sale and development, often destructive to cities and communities,
Profit.
with gradual money, which is invested in long-term use, maintenance, and adaptation, which she deemed wholesome.
Slow and steady wins the race.
In her view, for the health of cities, yes. The flow of money, she argued, dictates whether a building is organized around the moment of sale or decades of use, profoundly impacting its long-term viability, character, and ability to adapt. This is a critical insight. The financial incentive shapes the very soul of a structure.
The extreme case of this cataclysmic money mentality can be seen in Tokyo during the 1980s, where buildings seemed almost disposable.
That's right. The Tokyo real estate market spiraled so high that high-rises were being torn down after just 5 years, with an average building life of only 17 years.
17 years for a skyscraper.
Incredible, isn't it? This was because the land value completely overwhelmed the building value, making it economically rational to constantly demolish the last overspecified skyscraper and replace it with the next. It illustrates how intense financial pressure can turn even massive structures into disposable assets, rather than enduring homes or community anchors.
But buildings also have this incredible capacity for longevity and adaptation over time, defying that disposable mentality. It seems that if allowed, they can take on a life of their own.
What's fascinating here is that high building costs of one generation often become bargains for the next. Depreciation pays off original capital costs, and obsolescence for one enterprise frees structures for others.
One person's obsolete factory is another's cool loft apartment.
Exactly. This cycle of time allows buildings to adapt and take on new useful aberrations over centuries. It's a powerful reminder that buildings, if allowed, can possess a remarkable resilience and adaptability, evolving with changing needs and values, rather than simply being torn down to make way for the next new thing. They can truly become anchors of history and community. Hashtag outro.
What an incredible deep dive we've had today. We've really covered some ground.
We certainly have.
We've traversed millennia, from the ancient ziggurats and Greek temples that defined communal life, through the practical innovations of medieval builders and Palladio's harmonious Renaissance villas that shaped the very idea of a comfortable home. We've delved into the elemental choices of stone and wood, the precision of modern materials like concrete and gypsum, and the critical design of everything from doors and windows to that sacred trust of a staircase.
And we've seen how the orchestration of building management, from the hierarchical work breakdown structure to the digital marvels of BIM and the adaptive efficiency of the last planner system, transforms design into reality.
Yeah, turning ideas into actual buildings.
And we've highlighted the crucial frameworks of building codes, the evolving understanding of safety through models like Rasmussen's, and the imperative for sustainability as embodied by LEED and those net zero energy goals. All this, whether planned or accidental, contributes to the complex story of our built environment.
And finally, we explored how these structures profoundly shape us and our communities, from the human dynamics between clients and builders, the architect as artist.
The tricky parts.
Right. To the grand urban transformations of Haussmann and Robert Moses, alongside Jane Jacobs's incisive critiques of city planning. We've seen how buildings can be seen as commodities, but also how the flow of gradual money allows them to adapt and endure over centuries, gaining new life.
It's a powerful narrative reminding us that home is not just a static place, but a dynamic construct, a reflection of our deepest aspirations and the constant evolution of human needs and technology. Every design choice, every structural detail, every material selected, and every management decision is part of this long, ongoing conversation about how we want to live.
So as we continue to build, innovate, and redefine our domestic spaces with ever-advancing technologies and evolving values, what are we gaining? In terms of efficiency, sustainability, aesthetic expression.
Good question.
And perhaps more importantly, what might we be losing? Losing in terms of history, craftsmanship, and that slower, more adaptive, gradual money approach to building that fostered adaptability, maybe a deeper sense of belonging. What will future generations consider the most precious or perhaps the most regrettable elements built into the walls of their homes? We leave you with that thought to ponder.